This is Radio Taiwan International.
Welcome to the news on Radio Taiwan International. I'm Hannah Belinsky, coming to you from Taipei, Taiwan. We begin with a look at today's top stories for Wednesday, June 3rd. Taiwan tightens border controls over Ebola concerns. Analyst warns losing Taiwan would reshape Asia's balance of power. And film inspired by Czech Senate President's 2020 Taiwan visit screens in Taipei. But first, today's top story. To prevent the Ebola virus from entering the country, Taiwan has implemented strict border control measures. Recently, the government has further tightened restrictions. Since May 27th, all travelers who have visited the Democratic Republic of the Congo or Uganda within the last 21 days have been subject to entry quarantine measures and 21 days of self-monitoring. As of this Tuesday, general residents of the DRC and Uganda are now prohibited from entering Taiwan. On Wednesday, Health Minister Shi Chongliang and Centers for Disease Control Director General Luo Yijun visited Taoyuan International Airport. The minister was briefed on border preparedness measures and then personally inspected frontline quarantine operations. Shi explained that the government decided to introduce these additional border screening measures given the worsening Ebola outbreaks in the DRC and Uganda, this viral strain's high fatality rate and the lack of fully effective vaccines or treatments, and the fact that early symptoms are often nonspecific and easily overlooked. Luo added that from June 3rd through June 30th, free Ebola testing will be offered to asymptomatic travelers arriving from the DRC and Uganda at all 4 primary international airports. Taiwanese citizens and other incoming travelers with a travel history to the DRC or Uganda who do not show symptoms will be offered voluntary testing. An article by a retired U.S. Army officer argues that the West cannot afford to lose Taiwan.
A new opinion piece argues that Taiwan's strategic importance extends far beyond semiconductor production and warns that the United States could face serious geopolitical consequences if it fails to maintain credibility with its Indo-Pacific partners. Writing for Fox News, Texas Public Policy Foundation Vice President and retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Chuck DeVore says Taiwan's value should be measured not only by its role in the global technology supply chain, but also by its geographic position, diplomatic significance, and democratic system. DeVore notes that Taiwan sits at the center of the first island chain, a strategic arc stretching from Japan to the Philippines that helps limit China's access to the wider Pacific Ocean. He argues that if Beijing were to gain control of Taiwan, China's expanding navy would have greater freedom to project power into the Pacific, increasing pressure on U.S. allies and military installations across the region. The article also warns that the loss of Taiwan, whether through military invasion, blockade, or political coercion, could weaken confidence in U.S. security commitments. According to DeVore, countries such as Japan, South Korea, and the Philippines could face growing pressure to reconsider their strategic ties with Washington. DeVore also argues that Taiwan's democratic system presents an ideological challenge to the Chinese Communist Party, which has long claimed that authoritarian rule is necessary for stability and development. DeVore concludes that Washington should strengthen deterrence by accelerating arms deliveries, deepening military cooperation, and investing in critical industries such as semiconductor manufacturing and shipbuilding. Joey Cho for RTI News.
Former Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen and visiting Czech Senate President Miloš Vystrčil highlighted the enduring relevance of Václav Havel's democratic ideals at a Taipei forum, emphasizing civic responsibility, resilience, and international cooperation in defending freedom and democracy.
Tsai Ing-wen discusses Václav Havel's democratic legacy at Taiwan-Czech dialogue. Former Taiwan President Tsai Ing-wen on Wednesday spoke about the democratic legacy of Václav Havel, the late Czech playwright, dissident, and former Czech president, at a Taipei forum attended by visiting Czech Senate President Miloš Vystrčil. Speaking at the Václav Havel Dialogues event at National Chengchi University on Wednesday, June 3rd, Tsai said Havel's ideas about democracy, civic responsibility, and living in truth are relevant today. Democracy depends not only on institutions, but also on citizens who are willing to speak honestly, act responsibly, and participate in public bodies, Tsai said, reflecting Havel's political philosophy. Havel, who died in 2011, was jailed under communist rule before becoming Czechoslovakia's first post-communist president after the 1989 Velvet Revolution, and later served as the first president of the newly established Czech Republic in 1993. Tsai said she met Havel more than 20 years ago at a conference in Prague, where they discussed civil society in an increasingly globalized world. In a keynote speech at the forum, bicycl, whose previous visit to Taiwan in 2020, including a meeting with then-President Tsai, said that democratic nations share a responsibility to work together to strengthen security, resilience, and freedom. Security is more important than immediate welfare, resilience is more important than immediate profit, the Czech Senate President said in his speech, which reflected on Havel's legacy of dialogue, democratic responsibility, and resisting authoritarianism. At the forum, Czech and Taiwanese scholars discussed Havel's ideas and legacy. Later in the day, a memorial bench for Havel at Da'an Forest Park was also unveiled at a ceremony attended by bicycl and Taipei City Mayor Jiang Wan-an. This is James Thompson with Radio Taiwan International, reporting in Taipei.
The Interior Ministry said dozens of Taiwanese religious followers may have been detained in China during cross-strait exchanges, raising concerns about transparency and safety. Speaking on Wednesday, Interior Minister Liu Shifang said about 20 cases have been officially reported to the Interior Ministry and Mainland Affairs Council, but she estimated the actual number could be significantly higher, with a possible figure of 70 to 80 people across different religious groups. Liu said Taiwan supports religious exchanges across the Taiwan Strait but opposes detention without a clear justification.
We have repeatedly called for support of cross-strait exchanges on an equal footing, where religious beliefs can be shared and discussed, and where people can travel safely to China to engage with religious communities. However, we do not want individuals to be detained for other reasons or for unclear reasons when they go to China for religious exchanges. This is not a positive development for cross-strait interactions.
To mark the United Nations World Bicycle Day, Taiwan launched its Healthy Taiwan Nationwide Ride 2026 World Bicycle Day celebration initiative on Wednesday, June 3rd, along the North Coast, marking the first time 7 central government ministries have joined forces with all 22 counties and cities to promote cycling nationwide. The event was led by Minister without Portfolio Chen Shizhong alongside ministers from the Transportation, Health, and Sports ministries.
The core goals are health promotion, national exercise, tourism, and county-city cooperation. 7 central ministries and 22 counties are participating, with 31 events running from today through June 7th. We hope cycling helps people discover Taiwan's beauty and improve their health.
NCSIST has unveiled 3 variants of robot dogs. If mass-produced successfully, they could become the military's most reliable partners on the battlefield and serve as Taiwan's next line of defense.
A combat-ready robot dog equipped with a remotely controlled gun turret successfully engaged targets in a live demonstration. At the same time, a scout variant advanced to the front lines, precisely locking onto objectives before troops arrived. A lidar-equipped variant was also showcased, demonstrating its ability to quickly navigate around obstacles and conduct patrols of critical infrastructure. Paired with a thermal imaging sensor system, it can execute reconnaissance missions around the clock. Beyond expanding firepower for the integrated reconnaissance and strike robot dogs, the National Zhongshan Institute of Science and Technologies is also pushing to establish a non-red supply chain for drone and unmanned system components. If these robot dogs can be successfully mass-produced, Taiwan's military could be working with a whole new kind of man's best friend. Phil Laskowski for RTI News.
Thanks for joining me for the news. I'm Hannah Belinsky. Stay tuned for another 50 minutes of English language features brought to you by Radio Taiwan International.